episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I welcome Kristi Tanner to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. For many years, Kristi struggled with alcohol and sobriety. With 4 young children, Tanner found it hard to manage life and being a parent. In July of 2019, 2 run-ins with the law would lead her to a rehab facility and the start of nearly 2,000 days of sobriety. This will be another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. Here we go.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you or whatever you are doing? I hope you are enjoying your day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios. And for the first time, we are in Middleton, Wisconsin at Sober Social. Middleton, Wisconsin is located just west of our capital city, Madison, Wisconsin. You can follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter because I'm an awesome follow at TDecora8791, as well as hitting me up on Facebook at Tim Decora. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to the show. Make sure you leave a comment if you liked what you heard. If there's a topic or you know a guest who would love to tell their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us today wherever you happen to be. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will be released on Monday and Thursday morning, featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects, such as grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, divorce, success despite challenges, etc., etc., etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. Today, we welcome Mocktail Mommy Kristi Tanner to our Buck and Honey's remote studios. Kristi is the owner of Sober Social, a non-alcoholic bottle shop located in downtown Middleton, Wisconsin. How did this all come to be? Kristi was an alcoholic, mother of 4 young kiddos, and about to go through divorce proceedings. After 2 DUIs in a 72-hour period, she took the leap of faith and entered an inpatient rehab facility for the second time on July 6th, 2019. And that's almost 2,000 days sober. Wow. Wanting to destigmatize sobriety, and Kristi opened Sober Social in or on May 24th of this year to give people a place to go where people can be sober publicly. Kristi Tanner, welcome to the show. What is up, Mocktail Mommy?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm getting emotional just hearing you describe me, but it's such an honor to be here, and I love it.
Well, you know, it's kind of funny that you say it's an honor to be here. We're in your shop, so for me, it's an honor to be in the shop. How's business been going? I mean, it's the holiday season.
Yeah, it's been actually insanely busy since Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. People getting ready for Christmas, New Year's Eve. People are starting to think about dry January. You know, what are their goals for next year? And I really think non-alc products are finally getting a look and a try that they deserve. And it's been really good. I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm having a great time doing it.
Sometimes that's good when you can kind of shoot off the hip and just sort of wing it.
Yeah.
But just looking around the place, you definitely have a plan and a vibe. And I know when we first met, probably about a month or 2 ago now, and I said I think it would be great because I saw your article in Bravo magazine, which features business women. I thought that was very cool, and I thought I got to have her on the podcast because of her message, and then also because of the product that you're putting out there. There's people that want to stay healthy, stay safe, and a good way to do that over the holidays is to do it non-alcoholically.
So, absolutely. I always say, you know, you don't have a full bar unless you have a non-alcoholic option.
Mm-hmm. I always like to figure out who people are, and a great way to do that is via social media. So I was checking out your Facebook page, but I know that we are Facebook buddies now. So I just saw that you were in Naples, Florida, and this is the time of year to go to Naples, Florida, or anywhere with sun. What was the draw down there?
So my parents lived down there, and as well as my grandfather, and it's actually closely knit to sobriety. When I got sober, I really lost my relationship with my parents. And about 3 years into recovery, I had an open and honest conversation with them. I took accountability for where our relationship went, and I said, I really want to do better and I want to try again. And I said, but I do have one condition. Is it possible that we all remain alcohol-free when we're together? And I felt like that was a big ask of my dad, who is retired and lives in this beautiful golf community. And he looked at me and said, not a problem. That will not be a problem. And since then, my relationship with my family is as good as it's ever been.
Thriving.
And I really feared for a long time that I wouldn't ever have that again.
Well, I think that's a good being a role model of somebody who's in sobriety, who wants to get sobriety. That the first thing that came to mind when you said, can we all choose to be sober? And your dad said yes. That was such a big boundary that you set, and that it was important to you. And now likewise, it's important to your parents. And I think people listening today can benefit from that being able to set boundaries. And that's a great one.
Yeah. I think, in the beginning of my sobriety, I was still feeling badly that my addiction was affecting other people in so many ways. And so what I didn't want to do was ask them to do one more thing for me. Could you also change this thing about yourself? After I've put all of us through all of this stuff, I also need you to do this. So when they first asked me, Kristi, does it bother you when we drink around you? And I said, nope, I want you to continue doing you. And I meant it. But my feelings changed with my healing. And I realized it wasn't just the alcohol. I was craving a deep connection with my parents that I had always relied on alcohol to get. And I needed that back.
Yeah, I think when people get into recovery, the friends come back a little bit quicker because they're easier to forgive. But sometimes the people that are nearest and dearest to you, because they were witness to a lot of different things, and they probably tried to get you help early on, and they're usually the last ones to come back around. So kudos to your dad and your parents for being able to take Kristi's side and be able to understand and go with those boundaries. Because and a person who's maybe a little bit older might say, hey, this is how I live and this is how I'm going to live. I'm going to stay this way. I'm glad they were able to do it. We're going to get to just a couple things, but I do want to ask you, because of you explained in the Brava article about your social media, and you kind of put yourself out there, made yourself transparent. Your social media stuff, and that's where the Mocktail Mommy came from. Can you explain for our listeners what that looked like, the beginning of that journey?
My drinking led me to a really, really low bottom place, as I got 2 DUIs in 72 hours. I ended up in jail on the 5th floor of Gary, Indiana, and I was there for 36 hours. And after I got out, I went to rehab for the first time for myself, which was a huge differentiator from the first time I went, which was for other people.
Yep.
And after I got out, 60 days, I realized I'm not going to be able to live the same life, and I'm not going to be able to stay married, and I'm not going to be able to hang out with the people that I used to hang out with. And I was a year new to Wisconsin, and I had 4 kids under 5.5. And I had just sort of made this huge blow up introduction of myself as being like this mom with all these little kids. And then, oh, by the way, she's an alcoholic. People were not really coming towards me. So when I got out of rehab, I was like, I'm in AA every day, but what else should I be doing? I need accountability, not just in these rooms. I need accountability everywhere. And I wanted to trust myself. I did, but I didn't trust myself yet for good reason. I really struggled to get sober. And so when I decided, I moved out, and at 89 days sober, I went to my best friend's wedding, and I was in it in Chicago. And I was like, I got to the hotel and they were like, oh, are you here for the wedding? Here's 2 drink tickets. And I am by myself in Chicago, 1 day shy of 3 months. And I'm like, oh my God, like who would know? Would anyone know? What is this? I was so scared, and I didn't know who could hold me accountable because my best friend was sort of busy getting married. And my husband was about to be my ex-husband. And my parents weren't talking to me, and I didn't know what to do. I was alone. It was me and my children, who were half of them nonverbal, and me. And so I'm like, oh my God, I'm out here and I'm really scared. And so I made my very first post on Instagram, and I said, my name's Kristi and I'm an alcoholic. I've burned all the bridges in my real life, and I need sobriety so badly that I don't know what else to do except for to tell the entire world. And I don't care who knows, because I need you to help hold me accountable. It's a part of me. And I tried to make that not true for so long. And the reality is that's a part of me, and I'm not ashamed of it.
Yeah, and I think the town of Middleton is happy that you did, because you give them a place to go and be sober socially. All right, we're going to get to our sponsor, and then we're going to get to segment number 1. Our sponsor is Buck and Honey's Restaurant. Started with an idea owner Tom Anderson had, very much like your store is having an impact, and you had an idea. It's having an impact on Middleton. Buck and Honey's is impacting the communities where they happen to be: Sun Prairie, Monona, Wanakee, and Mount Horeb, with their great food, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere with 4 locations. One is always close by. Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
I was just there on Friday with my 4 children. Everyone got something different. They all enjoyed it, and I highly recommend the veggie centricity.
We're going to get into segment number 1, and as I mentioned earlier, we're going to probably look at about 8 or 9 minutes of this, so if the content is there, we'll go longer. If it doesn't, then we'll get ready for segment 2. Episode number 1, intro, your alcoholism. When people talk about their recovery, there's usually a plan for that in telling your story. What was it like? What happened? And what is it like now? So we're going to kind of address it in that order a little bit. So according to your Facebook page, you were Overland Park, Kansas. I've been there once. Graduated from Blue Valley North High School. And then you went on to, after high school, you attended Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. So let's go back a little bit and talk about your family. I know you talked about your mom and dad being in Florida. Do you have any siblings?
I have a younger brother. He is married with 2 kids. We were pretty close in high school, and we're both very busy right now.
Okay. Yeah, both of you. So he has a couple of kids,
Yep.
and you've got your 4. So yeah, that can keep you busy. So when you were in high school, where did you get your start with experimenting with alcohol or drinks or drinking? Where did that all start for you?
I was definitely exposed to it in high school. All of the cool kids were drinking. I didn't until New Year's Eve, my sophomore year of high school. I had agreed to be the designated driver because I always was. Some boy said something like, well, Kristi doesn't drink because she can't handle it. I could handle it if I wanted to, and then it became a challenge. Of course, I overdid it, I threw up everywhere. We had to call my parents. They took me home from the party, and I did not really drink again for another 2 years. It was horrible. My parents made me sit at the table the next day and explain to my brother what a hangover felt like, how miserable it was. They weren't like helping me. They were like, ooh, yeah, feel that. It really made me think.
Hang up the shoes for a couple of years and I'm not going to do that.
My parents always helped me, right? And they let me sit in this mess that I had created for myself, which was a really big lesson. But so then I kind of didn't drink again. And then I was like, woohoo, time for college. This is amazing. I'm so excited. No parents, no rules. This is wonderful. Ohio at the time, the rule was you could be 19 and go into a bar. I was 18 when I went to college, but the drinking was absolutely everywhere. And I started right away. I was in a sorority. Greek life was huge. We always had a theme party going on, power hour, shots of beer every minute for an hour. Ridiculous things. And I thought it was so fun. I am an Enneagram 7. It's called the enthusiast. So it's like, if there's a party, I want to be there. When I graduated, I would say my drinking a little bit changed, right? It was like, you're not living at college with a bunch of your friends anymore. Now you have a real job. It probably starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, this is great. I'll just drink Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I'm going to upgrade from Natty Light to champagne because now I'm classy. I'm super classy. I'm living in downtown Chicago. And I was just living for happy hour. The best thing ever.
So there was a little bit of progression from obviously the high school and then the college life. And so you just started to fit your alcoholism to what was, or your alcohol intake to what was going on.
For sure.
In your situation.
I never decreased what I drank from when I started heavily drinking in college. That didn't change when I started working. And quite frankly, that didn't change after any of my children. I went right back to it. But every time I would take a break, I would start up heavier. Be like, well, I'm just making up for lost time.
Was there a point where you thought maybe this shouldn't be how this is supposed to be like? Or was there some signs that you noticed?
One thing that's sticking out in my head right now was I had this amazing opportunity with a man in Chicago, and I was his executive assistant. He used to run Global McDonald's and extremely well connected. He had a private equity firm, and I was basically his first hire. About a year into working for him, I was in charge of this humongous event with Heather Mills McCartney, Paul McCartney's ex-wife. And we were doing this whole big thing. And I had pulled off this huge event in 2 weeks. And I was a nervous wreck the entire night, just making sure that it went well, that everyone had what they needed, that the vegan food stayed on the vegan side of the room. Like, it was just a whole thing. And at the end of the night, it was mostly me and coworkers and really close friends. And so they were like, well, you can have a drink now because it's over. And I was like, yes. Oh, thank God. I ended up then going to dinner with all these people. And then we went out for snacks at midnight or something. And I'm with Heather Mills McCartney and my boss and his wife and all these other very important, influential people. And I am 23. I'm blacked out. I excuse myself to go to the bathroom and end up getting locked in a closet. I did not find a bathroom. I found a closet. I got locked in that closet. I was embarrassing. I do not remember getting home. I know that my boss and his wife left the dinner early to take me to my crappy apartment in Chicago and let me in. And I thought, okay, this is what I do. When I do something terrible like that from drinking, I'll just never talk to them again. I'm just going to quit my job and never go back. He wouldn't want me back anyway. Oh no, this man called me into his office and he sat me down like a dad would. Kristi, what is going on? And I was like, I don't know, it'll never happen again. And that, I was like, I'm just going to quit. I can't ever imagine seeing these people again. I was so embarrassed and ashamed. And he's like, that's not what we do. It's not how you learn the lesson. That's not how you overcome, right? Like, we show back up. And I believe in you, and this is not going to happen again. I'll see you on Monday. And I did not want to go back to work because I did not want to face these people. And that sat with me for a really long time. Like, that was the first time I think I knew that there would be a day that I would have to quit.
So I think the listeners they're listening to you tell that story, and the first thing I was thinking about when you were just about ready to finish is, did you go back?
I did. I worked with him for 8 years. It was the most amazing career I have ever had. Just talked to him last week. We're still very close. He's a mentor in so many ways.
Did you then have any other experiences in those next 8 years where that happened again?
Not in front of him. Then we worked on the Chicago 2016 Olympic bid. He was the vice chairman, and so I worked on that team. I went to Copenhagen with all of the United States Olympic athletes, and we're all out at this party. I got so blacked out. I mean, I am the person supposed to be on call. This is how I'm handling that responsibility. He never saw that firsthand, but I would wake up and I would hate myself. I would be terrified of who I needed to apologize to and what for. Did I pay my bill? I mean, just regular things that I didn't know the answer to, and not knowing was really scary.
So I think the listeners that are listening now for your content, I'm going to guess either know somebody or maybe they're in that same mode of, that sounds like me. And in the next segment, you're going to talk about some of the things that got you sober, helped you survive some life things, some life changes, and then we're going to get to the part where you're thriving. And as I look around this place, I mean, we've only met a couple of times. I'm really proud of what you've done. Been sober nearly 2,000 days, and all of that work you put in has come to fruition May of 2024. So I'm looking forward to you sharing what it took for you to get to this point in your life. And I think the people that are listening want to know, what did she do? How did she get sober? How does she have 2,000 days? I can't make it a week. And you're going to give us that look. Buck and Honeys has been with us since the beginning, and I'm darn glad for that support. With the 4 locations in the Madison area, one is always near. I can't wait for my next dinner at Buck and Honeys, just like I can't wait to hear how you survived and thrived in segment 2. Kristi Tanner is going to take us through what it was like for her, troubled by a very serious problem with alcohol, and she's already talked about that. So please stay tuned. You don't want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We will be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know who is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help or resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365, and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Crisis services, dial 911. Suicide prevention lifeline, call 988. To connect via web chat, go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to utter 3 words: I need help. Now back to the show.
Welcome back. Segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm with my guest today is Sober Social owner, Kristi Tanner. She's talking about sharing her story about her addiction, her sobriety, and it was a roller coaster first segment. And I think this second segment is also going to start with a little bit of a roller coaster ride through the last 6 months of your alcoholism and then you're going to get into the last like day of it, and then we're going to come out of that, and we're going to start about that first 60 days of sobriety and what's brought you to this point. 1,990 days is amazing, especially when there are some people that are probably listening and they're thinking to themselves, I can't stay sober for more than a week, and this scale has got almost 2,000 days, and you're going to show, or you're going to talk about, it is hard work, but it is achievable, especially where you were. So you got sober on Saturday, July 6th, 2019. What was it like the 66 months leading up to July 6th, 2019? Kind of paint a picture for the audience here.
So I had talked about, my work, what ended up happening. I worked for him for a very long time. When I had my second son, my husband and I decided that I should stay home. Then I had a third son, and he was born with a cleft lip and palate. That diagnosis really changed the way I felt about myself. I felt like, have I done something wrong already to my unborn child? Like, how can this be? I had a lot of guilt and confusion, and I was terrified that I would not be able to provide for him what he needed. And I felt pretty unsupported during that journey. My pregnancy, not a family thing. And after he was born, my drinking went crazy. People were trying to support me, right? So they're like, we know Kristi loves champagne. We're going to come and babysit and give you a bottle of champagne and you can go out with your girlfriends. Is that not what every mom wants? Is like to feel like her old self. And I was so scared, miserable, alone. I didn't know what to do with myself. And so I just drank. I ended up in a street median one night after a party, and my husband said, I ended up in the hospital in the psych ward. I was there for 8 days, and he said, you cannot come home. Like, we have 3 kids under 3. Like, you cannot come home. And I was like, fine, I'll go to rehab. Fine. I was like, this is so embarrassing. I can't believe I'm like not allowed to be a mom right now. I was really angry, and it was not a choice for me to go. It felt like I had to go. He wasn't wrong. He was correct. I did need to go. And so I picked a fancy rehab. The night before, he took our kids to go see his parents, and I was alone at our house, and I got wasted. I upgraded my ticket to California to first class. When I got to the airport, I was probably 4 drinks in the entire time on a 4-hour flight. And I'm not a large person. And when I got off the flight, I knew that some sort of reality was about to hit. And so I was going to prolong that as long as possible. So I got off the flight. I went straight to an airport bar. And the person from rehab waiting for me had to get airport security to escort them inside the airport to come remove me from the bar. I got a phone call in the car on the way to rehab. I called my boss because that time in my life, I didn't have the kind of people that I needed.
The support.
I didn't have them. I don't remember those first 4 days at all. I was on a medical detox. I got my first taste of they taught me a lot. Some of it sounded like it could be true, but I kept recognizing things that were different. Not yet for me. I've never had legal problems. I've never this. I've never been fired. The things that hadn't happened yet kept me safely in my mind. Regular drinker who had just had life circumstances thrown at her. And this is my coping mechanism. So now I got a reality check, and I'm like, okay, I'll leave rehab and drink like a normal person. That didn't happen. I stayed sober for a little under 60 days. We ended up moving from Chicago to Wisconsin, and 2 weeks after I moved here, I totaled my car, and I did not get a DUI. My 4-year-old was in the back of the car. That was one of the scariest days of my whole life. Ugh. And that shame just eats at you. It just eats at you. Even if no one else knows, you know. Anyway, so we moved here. My drinking looked like I would party huge for a weekend and then go sober for 3 weeks and be miserable and be like, I don't want to be sober because being sober is boring and it sucks. Well, so did my attitude. And then I got pregnant with our 4th child, and our marriage was in a very, very bad place. And I found out some things that, changed the way I felt again about my whole life. I was pregnant as soon as I had my daughter. I brought champagne to the hospital. 36 hours after she was born, I was at a Halloween party. She was born October 29th of 2018. I was at a Halloween party at 4 p.m. with 4 children under 6 by myself with a 36-hour-old baby, and I got blacked out. And this was my welcome to the neighborhood. This is your new neighbor, Kristi. It was crazy. People started saying things. We're really worried about you, and people didn't want to be around me. I had been this fun girl for such a long time. I had not been fun for the last however long, and now I was a liability. Instead of feeling that, I decided I didn't care. And then I didn't care who saw me drinking, and I felt like I gave my permission to just do whatever I needed to do to get through the day.
I'm just listening to you, and the listeners are probably listening and thinking, holy cow, I've never heard such a thing. Unfortunately for me, or fortunately for me, being in recovery myself, I've heard your story told by older adults, younger adults, women, men. I've heard a lot. So it is, alcohol does things to you and clouds your brain and makes you do things that maybe you wouldn't do sober. 36 hours after you had your child, that's just where this alcoholism took you to. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't discriminate. We've got a professional woman that moved from Chicago to Wisconsin. By all looks, she probably compared to probably we're
Totally.
like, yeah, she's got her stuff together.
Yep.
We can't wait to meet this new person. Thankfully, they were in a position where they said, well, we're concerned for you. But then you decide to take the route of, okay, I don't care what people think of me. I'm going to drink more. And again, that's something that I heard too of that's the next step. Before you were trying to hide it, now it's out in the open and you don't care. The next step probably in that whole process is getting the 2 DUIs in a 72-hour period, and then going to a second rehab where you learn some of these coping skills we're going to talk about. Because how does a person get to nearly 2,000 days of sobriety after some of the stories you just shared? People want to know what magic what magic was performed, where you went. So we're going to let you talk a little bit about that. So once your sobriety started rolling in that first 30, 60, 90 days, and you already talked about that 89th day of what happened. What are the 3 to 5 things that have kept you sober? What were the beginning things that put you on this road to nearly 2,000 days?
I think, looking back, I had to be willing to change everything. Willing. I didn't want to. And those are different. But I was willing to change them. That
was like becoming a better mother, becoming just a better person.
Becoming a better person, but what I had to change, I needed to get divorced. Then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a single mom of 4 kids in a house by myself. What in the world? There's no way at 3 months sober that I'm going to figure out how to do this. Yeah, I did, but I didn't do it alone. I was in 12-step meetings every day. And I do mean every single day for the first 3 years of my sobriety. It made me feel safe. It made me feel seen. It made me feel understood. I never attended a meeting and left feeling worse. And if I didn't know what to do with my feelings or my feet or my hands, that's what I would do. Buy myself an hour. Put myself around people who get it.
I think that could be, it doesn't matter what you're doing.
Right.
If you need ideas, go to people that think like you, go to people that are in the same profession as you. That's the strength behind being in a 12-step program is that people get each other and they know what you've gone through, you know what they've gone through, but there's always that giving of suggestions. Here's what worked for me, maybe it'll work for you, but go ahead and take those suggestions and leave the rest behind, but take the stuff you need that are going to help you. I like that willing to change. I've heard people in recovery say, I needed to change one thing, and that was everything about what you did. And one thing, and the word one thing, everything is one word. And you had to change probably everything about how you did things.
And, and so I moved out of my big fancy marital home, right? Big, beautiful. We had all these 6 bedrooms, and I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment, and it's like, wow, reality check. And then it's like, what do I do with my time when I'm not with my children? Because I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom. What do I do? Just think about drinking all this time? I've always been a journaler, but I wrote every day, lots of times a day. And my journal is always with me still. And I used it for a lot of reasons. I used it because it felt like a security blanket. If something came up and it made me feel a big feeling and I wasn't in a place where I could tell somebody about it, I would put it on paper. If I heard a song in a coffee shop or wherever that all of a sudden is bringing me to a place that I don't want to go and I can't talk to people right then, nobody bothers me when I'm writing in my journal. Nobody bothers me. The things that I wrote about changed so much, and rereading them, looking back, I mean, that is real growth. It used to be complaining and victim mode and why me and all this stuff and how hard it was. And the things I write about now, not that I still write about hard things. I still have hard things, but I come at it from such a different lens of like, what is the lesson I'm supposed to be learning from this situation that keeps happening? Another thing, I did not in early sobriety trust myself not to buy alcohol. It's like, what do you mean? Just don't buy it. That at 6 months sober, shopping with your children, that could happen. And that did happen. And I go up to the checkout and putting all my stuff up there, and I'm like, and so they scan it and they're like, ID please. And I was like, what? And they were like, we need your ID. And I was like, after that, started leaving my ID in my car when I grocery shopped, when I'm in Target, when I'm in grocery stores, when I'm at anywhere, because I was not yet 1,000,000,000% confident that I would not buy the champagne. And so I left it in my car. I started driving home a different route. I didn't drive past the place that I used to happy hour with all my old friends who I can see their cars, that they're all still getting together, and I'm not there. That, I don't have to see that. That's a choice to keep seeing that or not. So I changed it. And I think being really public about it, not everyone wants to do that, but it made me feel I'm in the driver's seat of my story, maybe for the first time in my entire life.
So I'm going to go backwards a little bit here just because I heard some really good things, and I wanted to let you keep talking because it's just good. It's fascinating stuff. It's also some fascinating stuff that I've learned as well. The last item you just talked about was journaling every day, and you brought a good point about you can see how you've evolved over those 1,900 days, where you talked about writing a specific way the first 90 to 100 days, and then you are writing differently, and you're looking at things in a whole different way 900 days and 1,500 days. So you're changing. And then the thing I like about journaling, and I heard this from a friend of mine who does it, is that if you have a bad day and it's very similar to 3 months ago, you can go back in your journal and reference that, and then how did I get out of that bad day? What did I do? And it's right there in your journal. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a reference guide. I love that. The strategies and really the tricks for people who are in early sobriety. You talked about driving a different route home. I've heard about that. If there's a liquor store on your way home that you always used to stop at and get your liquor, go a different route. You talked about having a place where you went and had happy hour with friends of yours, and the first couple of times you drove by there, you could see all of their cars there. What an inviting feeling that is, to know that I can just pull in and they're there, and then I can start right back up again. Leaving your driver's license in your car, knowing that you're going to go into Target and they're going to ask you for your license, or the grocery store, and well, you know what, oh, I don't have it. That's another way to prevent something like that from happening. And then I would always probably also say that maybe not going around by the end caps anymore.
Yeah. No, we don't go to the liquor section anymore.
Yes, you stay away from the liquor section. So let's go back to we'll call this the fifth one. You layered on a bunch in there, but the last one is the being transparent stuff, because if anybody is out there, what can hold a person accountable is if you're on social media, and I'll share in a couple of days Kristi's social media stuff, her Instagram, her Facebook, her Twitter, whatever is out there. She can help you stay accountable by just looking at her posts and listening to her talk about her alcoholism. So let's talk about the transparent stuff, when you're being transparent on your social media stuff.
Yeah, I just think addiction is not your choice, but recovery is your responsibility. You get to do this work, but you do not have to do it alone. That is a choice too, and not one you have to make. The whole time I felt like I was trying to get sober, I didn't ever tell anybody that I was trying. I didn't tell my friends that I thought maybe I should stop. I didn't share what I actually felt. I was not being authentic. I was safeguarding the things that were real. Being open and honest about what you're going through, and when you learn how to verbalize it in a way that someone else says, me too. I was that mom in my neighborhood. I thought I was the only one. No, you weren't. I think it's a disservice to people to pretend that recovery is easy.
It's like anything else that I think we've talked about. It doesn't matter whether you're dealing with a mental health issue, whether you're going through divorce, whether you lost your job, whether you're struggling in a workplace that is dominated by other people, other genders. All things are not easy. They are work, and you can't take a pill to make it better. It's just always work and time.
And at some point I realized there is no finish line here. I hate that a little bit. I wish I could be check box, did that thing. That's not what this is, right? This is my lifestyle. This is an everyday kind of thing. The journey is why I'm on this planet. I'm here for these lessons, for them to change me. I was not meant to stay the same, or I wouldn't have gone through all these things. And I just think being able to own the most shameful parts of your story. I have this saying, keep no secrets, carry no shame. It's up there on my wall. It's tattooed on my rib cage. And that to me says I will own the most shameful parts of my story because I will rise above them.
Man, what an episode. I love your story. I mean, I heard it, like I said, a couple of months ago when I popped in here and thought that you would be a great guest. And you fulfilled that and even more. I mean, just the mental toughness of getting through after July 6, 2019 has been inspiring, and look at how you're thriving. That's the big thing is you've got sober, and then this didn't happen the day after. You didn't open Sober Social on July 7th, 2019.
I opened it. I had my grand opening on my 5-year sober-versary, Saturday, July 6th, 2024. You couldn't have planned that.
Yeah, and you're going to be an inspiration for people that are listening because they are too going through the same journey you are, or somebody's listening to this because there's a mom in their neighborhood that they're worried about,
Yeah.
or somebody's worried about their own mom or dad or a loved one,
and reach out and say, I see you and I love you and I want to help you.
Becoming the mom you probably always wanted to be, opening your own business, you epitomize the survive and thrive mentality. I look forward to what life has in store for you, for Kristi Tanner and Sober Social. So the call to action, we're going to wrap this up in a nice tight little holiday bow. Kristi Tanner just shared an experience that our listeners can learn from. These 5 things have helped her survive and thrive. And if you apply them to really any situation, but in this case, it would be getting sober, you can survive and thrive just like Kristi has. She said willing to change, and sometimes that's changing one thing, and that happens to be everything. 12-step meetings, and she had to do that for 3 years every single day, and it's hard work. She talked about being transparent and open, and she opened her life up to the world on the 89th day of her sobriety at a wedding and put herself out there on Instagram, on social media, and we talked about probably people commenting, hey, you can do this, call me if you need help, we're here for you. You talked about journaling every day, and I 100% agree with that because I do the journaling every morning and every night before I go to bed, and it's a reference point, and you can also put your thoughts down. If you can't tell anybody, or if there's no one to tell, you can put them on paper. You talked about those strategies, and I call them tricks. Drive a different route home than what you used to drive if it takes you by someplace that triggers you. Leave your driver's license in your car. Don't go by the end cap that you used to go to. So Kristi, this has been phenomenal. Do you have any last thoughts as we finish up this episode?
I'm just so grateful that I get to do this and be here in this space and build a community based on honesty and authenticity and inclusivity. And you don't have to be sober to come here. You can love someone sober. You can want to support their journey. You can decide you want healthier options for yourself. I hope that sobriety becomes a thing that people look at like, she did that thing. And that is something to be celebrated. It is not a consequence. It is absolutely the greatest gift of my entire life.
Yeah, that's just, you wrapped it up pretty nice. Amazing. Matter of fact, where people can be sober publicly. And then you said, keep no secrets, carry no shame. There's a lot of inspiration in here, and it's a great place to be. It's got a great vibe. I've enjoyed my time here today. So on our next episode, we will have another amazing guest who will share how they survived and thrived. So if you have a story to share, or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care, everyone.